park the car at Newby Bridge and make our way towards Canny Hill and Old Back Barrow. Turning right up a lane past some houses, we eventually get onto open fell land. After visiting a small reservoir, we carry on, having to turn back on ourselves to get to AW's point 585, now known as Bigland Barrow North Top. From there we make our way to the summit of Bigland Barrow and the old wartime relic of an observation tower. We drop down to a path through Hazelrig, and then it is roadwork all the way past Canny Hill back to the car at Newby Bridge. Bigland Barrow, Wainwright states that in spite of its merits as a viewpoint, which are considerable, it is most often visited out of curiosity to determine the nature of the man-made adornment on its summit. I submit that today it is mainly visited because it features in Wainwright's guide. One thing is quite apparent, however. This may not be true fell walking, but it's very pleasant indeed.
Cheers,
Lovely day.
Ja.
Wainwright makes us turn back to point 585 because he says the view is much the same as the main summit, but is preferred because of the more attractive foreground. Once again, we have to agree. It was really quite stunning. Good up here, isn't it?
Yeah, very good. I'm assuming we're going that way.
That away. That's correct. That away. This old tower, made from pre-fabricated concrete, is really in a bad state of disrepair. I can't find any reference to it on the net regarding it, so everyone basically refers to Wainwright's guide, stating that it's an old wartime observation tower relic. It certainly has a good view of the estuary, so it makes perfect sense to us. As I stood on an outcrop to enjoy a view and listening to the sound of songbirds, it was suddenly shattered by what I thought was an army coming towards us, with someone barking out orders. I wasn't far wrong. Suddenly there was two fat boys double timing it to Hazelrig. I recently watched Countryfile on this subject. More cattle are being allowed to graze free on open fell land, as it is of substantial benefit to the environment, both for the natural vegetation and the wildlife it encourages. I think it's just wonderful to see them wandering freely. Okay, that was it for Bigland Barrow. It was now just a matter of us returning to Newby Bridge for a quick break and a chill before we set off once again. After an hour's break, we set off again from Newby Bridge, making a brief visit to the train station on the Lakeside and Finsthwaite line. We then get en route, walking to the Royal Navy Memorial Tower for an enjoyable look round. Wainwright's route then drops through dense forest before coming out at the village of Finsthwaite and St Peter's Church. We then go off-piste a bit, making our way over to Scott Park Bobbin Mill for a mosey round before heading up to the low and high dams. We then set off in search of the highest point and summit cairn at 230 metres. Then, having found that, we then deviate slightly from Wainwright's route and take the quickest path back to Newby Bridge and the car. Before starting our walk, we take a visit to Newby Station on the Lakeside and Finsthwaite railway line. This heritage line is 3.2 miles long, 5.1 kilometres, and runs from Finsthwaite at the southern end of the line to Lakeside at the southern end of Windermere. Restored in 1970 from when beaching closed all the branch lines, it now runs two main Fairbank Tank 264T steam locomotives. Once I'd got Dave to understand that on this route he couldn't molest any animal or roll stones down any hills, we made our way to the first highlight of the walk, a tower that commemorates the Royal Navy. The tower originally had 3 stories when built in 1799 by James King of Finsthwaite, and clearly this was a man dedicated and resolute in wishing to honour the Royal Navy's efforts to protect our shores. Decided to deviate slightly from Wainwright's route to visit the strangely deserted Scott Park 19th century bobbin mill. It's now an English heritage working museum. Clearly this place was closed, so we were rather pleased we hadn't driven miles to visit it. However, what we wanted to do now was make our way up to 2 pieces of water known as Low Dam and High Dam. Having hidden the bags, hopefully to return and find them later on, we were looking forward to what lay ahead, as Wainwright had stated in his guide that everywhere the surroundings were delightful. That certainly put a spring in David's step. And I'm pleased to say we were not disappointed. Built in the early 1800s to supply water to the Scott Park bobbin mill, this was a wonderfully peaceful place, just as described by Wainwright. But we now needed to move on and get ourselves up to the summit of Finsthwaite Heights. database of British and Irish hills give the highest point here at 230 metres a name of Summer Sides Wood. Makes no sense to me at all, especially as they say that the summit of Finsthwaite Heights is at 180 metres further north, and yet state that the highest point is here at 230 metres. Again, makes no sense at all. As you will soon discover, when we got to Newby Bridge there was a nice bonus for us, which was rather pleasant. Anyway, once again, thank you for watching and we'll see you out there.